You've done it thousands of times. You've never thought about it. But the small bar of soap sitting next to your sink right now has a history so strange, so violent, and so accidental that if you knew the full story, you'd never look at it the same way again. This is the story of how humans went from smearing animal fat on their bodies to building a billion-dollar industry, and how soap accidentally changed the course of human history. The year is around 600 BC. On the banks of the Tiber River in Rome, animals are being sacrificed at the top of Sapo Hill. Fat and ash from the ritual fires mix together, run down the hillside, and wash into the clay soil near the river. Women washing clothes nearby notice something unusual. The clay from that particular spot makes clothes cleaner than anything else they've tried. They don't know why. They just know it works. The Roman writer Pliny the Elder later documented this, calling the substance sapo. That word sapo is where we get the word soap. But here's what's wild. The Romans mostly used soap on their hair and clothes, not their bodies. For bathing, they used olive oil and a scraping tool called a strigil. They'd cover themselves in oil, let the dirt stick to it, then scrape it all off. By our standards, disgusting. By their standards, perfectly civilized. Fast forward to the 7th century. In the city of Aleppo, Syria, soap makers have cracked something the Romans never figured out, combining olive oil with laurel berry oil and lye to create a hard, fragrant bar that actually cleans the human body. Aleppo soap. It's still made today using the same 1,000-year-old recipe. And for centuries, it was the most prized soap in the known world, traded across the Middle East, Northern Africa, and eventually into Europe via the Crusaders, who brought it back and sparked an obsession. Suddenly, European cities wanted in. By the 13th century, soap-making guilds had formed in Marseille, Castile, and Venice. These were serious, protected industries. Soap makers guarded their recipes like state secrets. In some regions, soap makers were legally forbidden from sleeping outside their workshops in case they shared trade secrets with competitors. Soap had gone from an accidental discovery to a luxury commodity, and like all luxury commodities, kings wanted to tax it. In 1712, Britain introduced the soap tax. The government saw soap as a product only the wealthy used, so they taxed it heavily. Soap makers had to lock their equipment under government seal every night. Officials made surprise inspections. Anyone caught making soap without a license faced severe penalties. The result? Ordinary people simply stopped using soap. For over 140 years, soap was effectively a luxury item in Britain. Historians now believe this contributed directly to the disease epidemics that swept through working-class cities: cholera, typhus, dysentery. People weren't dirty because they didn't care. They were dirty because their government made cleanliness unaffordable. The tax was finally repealed in 1853. Within decades, soap consumption in Britain quadrupled, and a young entrepreneur named William Lever saw his opportunity. William Lever didn't just sell soap, he sold the idea that cleanliness was a moral virtue. His advertising campaigns in the 1880s didn't say "our soap cleans well." They said that dirty people were lesser people, and that buying Lever soap was a statement about who you were. His brand, Sunlight Soap, became one of the first mass-marketed consumer products in history. Lever didn't just advertise. He built an entire town in England called Port Sunlight to house his factory workers, with parks, schools, and art galleries. He understood that selling soap was about selling an identity. That same playbook, selling an identity, not a product, is still how every soap, perfume, and hygiene brand operates today. Every time you buy a body wash because of how the ad made you feel, you're falling for a strategy William Lever invented 140 years ago. In 1847, a Hungarian doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis noticed something disturbing. Women giving birth in wards where doctors came directly from performing autopsies were dying at 5 times the rate of women in midwife-only wards. He made doctors wash their hands with chlorinated lime solution before delivering babies. Death rates dropped from 18% to 1%. He had discovered germ theory before germ theory was officially discovered. The medical establishment rejected him completely. He died in an asylum, largely discredited. It wasn't until Louis Pasteur confirmed germ theory 2 decades later that the world finally accepted what Semmelweis already knew: soap and clean hands save lives. Today, the World Health Organization calls hand washing with soap the single most cost-effective public health intervention in human history. more effective than vaccines, more effective than antibiotics, more effective than any drug ever developed, a bar of soap. So next time you reach for that bar of soap, remember, you're holding an accidental discovery from a Roman hillside, refined by Syrian craftsmen, taxed by kings, weaponized by marketers, and endorsed by the greatest public health discovery in human history. If you want to know the hidden history behind another everyday object, drop it in the comments. And if you're new here, subscribe, because every week we pull back the curtain on the ordinary things you've never thought twice about.